Hi, I'm Daniel Gold, and welcome to the Gold Standard Leadership Lab. By day, I'm a partner at a leading advisory firm where I draw upon my background as an attorney to help my clients succeed. This podcast, though, is my personal project, completely separate and apart from my day job, but reflects the same passion that I exhibit everywhere for teaching, mentoring, and helping others succeed through simple, impactful lessons. It is my hope that you'll walk away with practical takeaways to help you on your leadership journey. Thanks for being a part of this community and for joining me in the Leadership Lab. Let's get started. I want to tell you about a member of my team that I once had. And for today's purposes, we'll just call him Matt. He was not a manager, not a director, and not part of any group with the word leadership in its name. Matt was a service desk representative, and what he said to me in a closed conference room in Boston in 2016 changed the way that I see people, that I view purpose, that I understand leadership, and it was permanently and without any exception. And this is not hyperbole. You see, 10 years ago, I stepped into a new role as vice president of an IT managed services company. It was a new title, new responsibility, new everything. And the very first thing I did before I sat in a single meeting, before I reviewed a single report, and before I did a single thing that a VP is supposed to do, I got on a plane. Well, two planes actually. One to Boston and one to Sacramento. And no one asked me to do that. It was not in any onboarding checklist or transition plan. It was that my gut told me to go. And I have learned over the years that when your gut speaks to you that clearly, there's only one right response, and that is to listen. The reason why I flew to those two locations is because the company had just acquired another company, and so we had teams on either coast. So most leaders in that situation would start with data. They'd start with org charts, performance metrics, client retention numbers, and financials. I understand that instinct, and listen, they matter too. But they were not what I needed first. What I needed first was to understand the people, not their titles, not their output, not what a spreadsheet was going to say about them. I wanted to understand who they actually were, what drove them, and why they showed up every single day to do what they did. So I arranged a series of one-on-one meetings, one person at a time, a private conference room, just the two of us. There was no agenda distributed in advance. There was no HR representative in the room, no formal structure, just a conversation. And here's something important that I want you to remember, and you probably understand this. You see, when employees are called into a conference room one by one to meet a VP, especially a new one that they'd never seen before, this was not a meeting they were looking forward to. They were scared, and you could see it in their face. And every single one of them walked in a little trepid. I can tell you for sure that not one person walked through that door thinking that someone finally wanted to know their story. They assumed, all of them, that something bad was coming. A restructuring conversation, a role elimination, or a performance concern. And why? Because trust had not yet been established, and psychological safety was nowhere where it needed to be. I understood that walking in, and I felt it in every handshake, in every very careful smile that they had with me, every person who sat down just a little too straight in their chair. And despite all of that, I asked my one question anyway. Why do you work here? That was the entire diagnostic. It was just one question that I had. Not what do you do? Not what are your goals for the next quarter? Not how do you feel about the acquisition? Just that. Why do you work here? And then I closed my mouth and I listened. Not to respond, not to evaluate, not to build a mental file on each one of these people that were sitting before me. I listened to understand, and I want to tell you something. There is a profound difference between those things. And most people who carry the title of a leader never actually experience it because they walk into rooms with their conclusions already half formed, their spreadsheets in hand, and their next sentence is already half written. That's not what I did, though. Now, most people gave me some version of the same answer when I asked that question. They were hourly employees. They were there to keep the networks running, the routers up, the servers operational, and the workstations virus-free and functional. That was the job. That was what they were paid to do. And I want to be clear that there is absolutely nothing wrong with that answer. It is honest and it is grounded and reflecting the reality of what these professionals do every single day. Good work done well actually matters. But then I sat down with Matt. And Matt's answer was something I was not prepared for. I asked him the same question I had asked everyone else. Why do you work here? And without any hesitation, without any performance or positioning, he looked at me and said, Daniel, I'm trying to find a cure for brain cancer. And I looked at him like he had 3 heads. And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, our biggest client here is a research firm that is working to find a cure for brain cancer. If their servers go down, if their network fails, if their workstations stop functioning, well, then their researchers cannot work. Their data becomes inaccessible. Their progress stops. And if their progress stops, the cure does not get found. He paused for just a moment, and then he said it to me plainly. So it is my job, Daniel, as a service desk representative, to make sure that every single piece of their infrastructure works exactly the way it should. Because when I do my job right, I am part of finding a cure for brain cancer. I sat in that conference room and felt something shift inside of me. Not metaphorically, I mean, I felt it physically. The way you feel it when something true and unexpected lands directly in the center of your chest. And 10 years later, I remember that moment as clearly as it happened this morning. I remember the room. I remember the light. I remember the way he said it without any pride or performance. He was not trying to impress me. Matt was just telling me the truth about why he showed up. And that changed me that day. And here's what I want you to understand about what happened in that room. I walked in as a VP. I had the title, the organizational authority, and the formal responsibility. I was the one who had flown across the country with the explicit purpose of understanding my new team. By every conventional measure, I was the leader in that conversation. And yet, there was Matt. Matt led me. Matt led me without knowing he was doing it. He led me without a strategy or an agenda. He simply answered a question honestly, and in doing so, he reframed how I saw work, purpose, and people. Because he made me ask myself whether I knew why I showed up, whether I understood the real impact of what I did every day, and whether I was connected to something larger than my own job description. A service desk rep did that to a VP in a closed conference room with nothing but a genuine answer to a genuine question. And I'm going to tell you something. That right there is leadership. Matt didn't have a title, not a reporting structure, not an organizational designation. Leadership is what happens when one person's clarity, purpose, and authenticity cause another person to think differently and act better. And Matt did that for me. And I have no doubt that he did it for the people around him every day without them having a formal framework for what they were experiencing, and he was doing it for all of our customers. They just knew they wanted to work near him because being near him made the work feel like it mattered more. That moment did not influence me temporarily, obviously. It did not take me an anecdote to tuck it away for a future reference. I could bring it up in a speech or a podcast like today. It literally rewired how I think about the people that I work with, what I look for when I sit across the room from someone, and what I believe a leader actually is. Matt gave me that, and he gave it to me by answering my one question. There is a pattern inside the Matt story. And it is one that anyone can follow, not because it's simple, but because it is learnable. It requires discipline and intention. but not a title. It starts with showing up before you have a reason to. Getting on the plane that nobody asked you to do. Scheduling the one-on-one that nobody put on your calendar. Going to the room before there is a crisis, a performance issue, or an agenda that is driving you there. This is not a small thing. The act of showing up proactively, of being present with people before you need something from them, communicates a kind of respect and genuine interest that no memo, no company-wide email, and no all-hands meeting can replicate. Because people feel the difference between a leader who shows up because something is wrong and a leader who shows up because they actually want to understand. And I want all of you to be the second kind. And then ask the real question, not the safe one and not the procedural one, but the one that cuts to the actual human being that is sitting in front of you. Why do you work here? What drives you? What makes this more than just a paycheck to you? And then, and this is where most people fail, just stop talking completely. Stop thinking about your response. Stop forming your next question in your mind. Stop evaluating what they are saying against your existing assumptions. Just listen to the human across from you. Listen for what is underneath the words. Listen for what they care about but have not been given permission to say it out loud. Listen for the moment when something true and unexpected comes through. Because if you ask the right question and you are genuinely still enough to hear the answer, someone will surprise you. I promise you that. When that moment comes, when you see something in someone that nobody else has taken the time to notice, act on it. Do not file it away. Do not mention it in a performance review 6 months later. Do not wait for them to ask you to do something about it. Act. Recognize it explicitly. Develop it intentionally. And when the time comes, promote from what already exists rather than hoping a title will manufacture what was never there to begin with. Think about how many times that happens in your organization today. Matt never came to me to ask for a promotion. He never made a case for himself or told me he was ready for more responsibility. But I'm going to tell you something. I promoted him. That's right. I promoted him when the time was right because I had seen what he was already doing. The title of manager came after leadership was already fully in place. And that is actually the correct sequence. This is the cycle, and it is self-perpetuating once you commit. Show up. Ask deeply. Listen completely. See what others miss. Act before they ask. Watch them lead. Let them change you. Then do it again with the next person and the one after that. That is how real leadership multiplies. That's right, real leadership. That is how it creates the kind of ripple that keeps moving long after you have left that room. And here's what I want to leave you with. Stop waiting for a title to start leading. And if you already have a title, stop hiding behind it. Leadership is not something handed to you in an offer letter or embedded in a job description. It is not. It does not exist because your name appears on an org chart with direct reports underneath it. And it does not disappear because your name does not. It is earned by how you show up. It is proven by how you listen. And it is demonstrated in the moments when you ask the question nobody else has asked and then actually stay quiet long enough to hear what comes back. Matt did not need a title to lead me. He just needed someone to finally ask him why he showed up. So I'm going to ask you the same question I asked him. Why do you work where you do? Not what you do, not what are your responsibilities, not what does your job description say. Why do you work where you work? If you can answer it the way that Matt answered it, If you can connect your daily work to something that genuinely matters, something bigger than your role, something you would still care about even if no one was watching and no one would ever know, well, then you're really leading. Truly. You may not have the title yet, and it doesn't matter. You may be the Matt in your organization right now, sitting at a service desk or in a cubicle or on a team where nobody has thought to ask you that question. And if that is where you are, I want you to know the right leader will eventually sit across from you in a closed conference room and ask. And when they do, I want you to tell them the truth. Because that truth is what makes leadership true. It is what leadership is actually made of. Not titles, not org charts, not the names we give to the rooms where decisions get made. The truth about why you show up. That is where it starts. That is where it has always started. Because remember, leadership, it isn't about perfection. It is about progress. So take this lesson, put it into action, and continue setting the gold standard in your own life and at work. I'll see you all next time.